Hey guys, you again with Committed, and today we have a very interesting session. But before we start, let me give you a hint about the today's plan. Uh, First, we will have an interview with Olya. Next, Olya will give us a small session about how to pass interview with United States Giants. I hope successfully pass the interview, but not miss. And the third part will be dedicated to the questions from the slider. Don't forget to register in Slido. On the screen, you can see the QR code. Just scan it, join the Slido, and put your questions. So let's go. Let's introduce each other. My name is Victor. I'm from Committed.
My name is Olya Gavrish. I work at Microsoft as a program manager.
Yes, and
And my name is Mish. My name is Misha.
Okay.
It's awesome how we talk at the same time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That all
Okay.
was online.
Let's start. Olya, you have already introduced yourself. You are currently a program manager at the Microsoft. So give us a hint what you are doing right now, and is it really you are working at the Microsoft?
That is true. Yes. So I am working as a senior program manager on a .NET team. And right now I'm focusing on desktop platforms. So I'm in charge of a product such as WPF, WinForms. I'm helping users to migrate to the latest versions of .NET, which is .NET 5 and .NET 6 is coming in November this year. And everything related to desktop, that would be my area.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I know you have a pretty interesting story. You, as I'm not mistaken, you are from Ukraine. You started as a test engineer, working as a stat, doing a lot of stuff around the testing. Later, you moved to United States, worked as a developer, and finally jump into the top level position of the program manager. Could you give us a little bit more information how you started, why you selected software testing as a profession, and why you finally here in United States?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. Many, many years ago, I started as a software tester. And initially, I had a background in applied mathematics. So my childhood probably dream was to become a scientist. And I got my first job as a manual tester. It was a summer job. The interview for that job was very interesting. They asked me, can I use a computer? I said yes. They asked, can I read English? And they said go and work in that room. So that's how I got in the industry. Of course, that was manual testing. I was executing a bunch of test cases, but by starting doing it, I realized that I like it way more than dry science. And that's actually where industry is, where we make an impact. And I know that even though I found a very minor bug, I did something that real people are using and I helped like the universe. So I got very passionate about software industry. Then I started learning more about testing, and I know primary audience for this group are testers and quality assurance people, SD. So I wanted to talk more about this period of my life. Uh, I guess my first year, I was just executing test cases, like learning the software world, but I didn't know much about testing. Then I tried to pass interviews in Ukraine for higher level of software tester, and I realized there's so many things that I did not know. And to speed up that process, I took a boot camp in Ukraine for software testing, and I started like learning, reading books, starting even with Wikipedia. Wikipedia has amazing article on software testing and many related articles. So if you're about to pass interviews, I highly recommend to refresh knowledge just by starting skimming the Wikipedia. And then I got the job at a bigger company, EPAM, uh, where I transferred to automation tester. And I always liked writing code, even when I was in university, but my code back then was solving some crazy differential equations. So I transferred to software as that, software test automation, and then to developer. I became a C# developer, worked as a developer for a few years, and I got a job offer to relocate to United States as a developer through a consulting company. And when I came here, I also did like a bunch of Java development, C# development. A few years ago, almost 4 now, I decided to transfer to software PM side of things. And I got a job at Microsoft as a program manager, but for people who know, I do product management rather than program management, because for some weird reason at Microsoft, everybody is called program managers, but we have very different roles. Some do product, some do process, program, and so on. So right now I'm a feature PM doing product management at Microsoft.
Microsoft is a tricky company talking that you are program manager, but instead that you are just a product manager. Satya Nadella is probably
So
pretty guy.
I was, initially when I got hired, because when we discussed the job, I was understanding that as a product management job, and then my friend greeted me like a week after my employment, and he said like, "Oh my God, you're a program manager. I looked you up in the system. Like, good job, good, congratulations on being program manager." And I'm like, "What? I'm program manager? What?" Like, I didn't know that. But in our, I know in EPAM and in global logic companies that I worked in Ukraine, program manager was higher. It was like the boss of product managers. In Microsoft, it's not like that. Program manager is the person who is in charge of the processes like budget, time, deadlines, and so on. And product manager is the person who is in charge of the product. So that person develops the vision for the product, collects customer feedback, creates a feature set, direction where this product should move. So I am that.
Okay. Look, you're communicating like a very extroverted person, but I would say in most cases when we are talking about the developers, we expect some introversial guys that just keeping the silence and speaking one word in an hour. Can we say that software testing profession helped you to be more, I would say, free in public speaking? I know you're doing a lot of talks on the conferences, meetups, doing a lot of stuff, for example, like today. Software testing
Yeah,
profession helped you to become a professional.
yeah, definitely. It helped me because being a tester, I had to talk to many people, right? You need to talk to your developer, you need to talk to management. When you go higher, you're like a lead of a testing team, you need to talk to so many different people, and customers included. At some jobs, I had to communicate to customers. That's how I learned English, and that's how I started not being afraid to say anything. And as for public speaking, that is definitely a skill that you can gain. I was not good at all, and I'm still learning. There is a huge path for me. But for those who is interested in getting into public speaking, I recommend just start doing it. And if it's too scary to do it at events, just gather a small group of friends and do some knowledge sharing, brown bag, or tell something like get your team over beers and do a little presentation for them. And the more you talk, the more you become confident and better in that, as in everything else.
Okay. You've tested a lot of positions, tester, developer, program manager, product manager. So which position I think was most excited, or probably most excited now for you when, for example, you're looking back and your past days when you work as a test engineer, you just become your profession, and now you are major professional doing a lot of interesting things. So was it excited, or probably most excited position is your position now?
You know, every position was very excited at the time, and that was the reason why I made a change and got in that position. I was very excited to start doing test automation. I was amazed that like I can write a code and all the testing magic is getting done for me. I like being a developer, and now I absolutely love being a product manager. Right now, this is my favorite by far, but of course, back then I was extremely excited to do the job that I got back then.
Okay, thank you,
And yeah,
Lisa.
I can add to that I liked being developer, but at some time, as you pointed out, I realized that I'm probably more extroverted person, and I can make bigger impact by talking to people and by using my other skills than coding. So, and
Okay,
it worked out very well.
okay.
Olya, talking about excitement, we were a little bit curious and took a look to your profiles in different places like LinkedIn, for example. And we observed that you, before taking the position of program manager in .NET projects, you were also obtaining probably the same position in the ML.NET, machine learning.NET projects. And it would be also interesting to hear from you what is again more exciting for you to participate in more closer to science thing like machine learning, or to help people, to help customers, to help clients migrate to better desktop applications, what you're doing right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about ML.NET, but that was when I joined .NET team. And ML.NET is .NET project as well. So once I joined early in my career, we realized that we don't have any offering in mathematics and machine learning area, and that is extremely fast growing area. It's very trendy and popular right now. So we decided to take our internal project, which was very mature and gave very good results. And we decided to productize it and call it ML.NET. So that was a combination of machine learning, math science, and .NET. And I absolutely love that project. That's still like my very favorite baby. Because of my background in mathematics, it was extremely interesting to work on it. So we productized it. We wrote top level APIs for our customers, and we released first preview version. And in a year, we released the full version of ML.NET. And then my job there kind of was done. I moved to WinForms because we wanted to open source WinForms, do similar thing that we did with ML.NET, and we wanted to bring it to new platform .NET Core. Then I started working on WPF as well, and then more and more projects got in my hands. So I would say everything was very interesting, and in general, I absolutely love working on the .NET team because I grew up with that technology. Like, more than 10 years ago, I was using it to write my code, and now I get a chance to contribute to it, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I can imagine. And you mentioned that ML.NET is one of your, let's say, your favorite baby. That's the term you used. Speaking
Yeah.
about babies, uh, you always should make sure that your baby is, let's say, doing good, learning good, and taking this world around good in a good, let's say, direction. Um, and because our audience is mostly is about testing, it would be really interesting to hear for us and for our audience, how did you test those algorithms during this job in ml.net, because it's really interesting topic. Would
Yeah,
appreciate hearing
yeah.
from you.
Sure. So as for testing of that project, we had all types of testing in place. So unit testing, integration, regression, and so on. But I think what you're asking is how we made sure that the quality of our of the models our algorithm produce are have high quality, right? So for
Indeed.
that, there is metrics, and our data science department helped us to put everything together because, again, we took the engine from existing AI solution that Microsoft have been using for years for products like Windows, Outlook, PowerPoint, and so on. So these are same core algorithms that we reused for ML.NET. And for each type of problem, there are benchmarks like everywhere in industry. So we were comparing our benchmarks to existing competitors, to existing scientific researches, and so on. That was largely done by our AI team. I just saw that ML.NET shows a very good results and stays on the like highest level of existing solutions. And if you're
Okay, very
asking
interesting.
great. If you're asking how to compare if your model, the thing that you get to build as a user with ML.NET, is it good or bad? How to test, for example, like I created a model that tells me positive or negative sentiment. Like I feed in user reviews and it tells me this user is complaining and this user is appraising the product and this user is neutral. Like to test how good my model does, there are metrics in ML.NET that can tell you, such as accuracy and other parameters. And on the wiki in our documentation, you can read up about all those metrics and understand like, okay, this one, the closer to one it is, the better it is. And the algorithm ML.NET tells you, okay, your accuracy is 0.89. So you can conclude how good your model is. Do you need extra training or do you need to tune parameters to improve it, or this quality is acceptable for your specific task?
Okay,
Yeah, that's very
I have
interesting. Thanks for this info. Yes, Victor?
thank you. I have some kind of general question regarding the ML. ML, it's like a buzzword. A lot of people talking about ML. It's really a lot of talks. And I know there are two completely controversial opinions about the ML. ML is something for the scientists. You need to have special education. You need to know the algorithm. You need to know how uh, neural networks are working. It's too complex. The other opinion is that, okay, guys, the complex algorithms and frameworks have already created. You just can start using it without even knowledge about actually how it works. So can you give, I would say, of course, if it's possible, a simple advice how, for example, software testers could start just I would say learning or just trying to test the ML.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you pointed out very well, there are lots of solutions and frameworks, and you can get in ML.NET world without any knowledge. You just, and for example, with ML.NET, you can just use the mechanisms that are in place that would build the model for you and recommend it. We have a plugin in Visual Studio that is called Model Builder, and it just walks you through the steps. You specify the path to your data, you specify which parameter you want to predict, and then you just like set training time, click create a machine learning model for me. Everything happens behind the scenes. As a result, you get the model. And then I would recommend to try to understand what your model does. It's not required. You can just take it and use it, plug it in, and here's your machine learning already working in your application. But if you want to be good in this area, if that's something you're passionate about, and if you want to be able to conclude, is that a good model or not? How can I improve it? How can I improve it over time? How I can collect data in a more sufficient way? How I can prepare my data to improve my machine learning model results? In that case, I would recommend to look under the hood and actually see what your model does, maybe do some reading, understand the algorithms, understand the metrics, and so on. With ML.NET, you can do it all by just reading the documentation. And if you ever have questions, ping me on Twitter. I'll connect you with the ML.NET PM, and she can provide you any help you need.
Great, great. I hope a lot of testers
If
will
you're talking
start learning ML right now.
Yeah, I don't
Right
want to
after the
sound like
interview.
it's only ML.NET. There are other solutions that are absolutely great as well. And yeah, try them. Many of them based on Python. If that's something that you're comfortable with or something that you prefer, there is a huge community around that and also lots of resources online. And if that's something that you prefer better, go down that path. That's also absolutely amazing solutions. And yeah, and good thing you can integrate those solutions with ML.NET in your .NET projects as well, because ML.NET, it doesn't provide just their proprietary algorithms. They also provide you the platform where you can plug in TensorFlow or any other models. It can be a bridge between your .NET app and other machine learning solutions.
Okay, thank you. Isha?
Yeah, Ola, one more question related to your experience, let's say joint experience. So as we already know, you started as a tester and then automated tester, as that, and now you are dealing with .NET desktop platforms, let's say, mechanisms. It would be really interesting whether you have found, sorry, whether it would be really interesting for testers to hear what Microsoft recommends to use as a best tool for writing after tests for desktop applications. That's kind of
So
question
we
we have.
have our testing framework in place, and we have amazing person Kendra who is working on it. I'm also happy to connect you to her, and she can, or you can just look up her demos on YouTube or blog post on .NET blog post, and it's a great solution. There also you can plug in and use anything you want for testing and use it with your .NET or even not .NET applications. I know that we are using in our products, we are using our testing, and we are using Azure DevOps, Azure CI/CD processes to run like every time we check in new code, it gets auto tested. We don't allow any check-ins if something is failing. We need all checks to be in place because it's very expensive for us to break something. You break a lot of people.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
I will probably change the topic a little bit because together with Mikhail, we decided that Mikhail will ask a clever questions and I will ask other questions. Yes, so my question will be following. You are an immigrant. When you are trying to conquest a paradise or conquest any other new land, you always pay the price. Price in terms of relations, in terms of investment, in terms of money, in terms of time, and it's not easy. Could you give us, I would say, if possible, and if it's not too emotional, how it was actually to just jump from one country to other, leave your family, leave your friends, and trying to find new friends, trying to set up your life, home, job, just start everything from scratch. And actually, why you
Yeah,
decided to do this? Yes.
sure. It was quite an adventure, yeah. And I would say first half a year to a year, it was pretty tough because I had to change the language, the country, the culture. All my friends were gone, all my family stayed in Ukraine, and the job. I absolutely loved the job back then. And then when I moved with a consulting company. So I basically was assigned the project that they wanted me to do. They were not that challenging or interesting. So yeah, first time it was tough, but what kept me going was a thought that okay, I'm just trying it. I'm learning English. I'm getting new experience, and anytime I decide, okay, that's enough. I don't want to do it anymore. I can always return. I can always like get my ticket, fly back home, get a new job in Ukraine, and my family will still love me and my good friends will still remember me, and those who don't probably were not so good in the first place. So I kept that thought, and that really helped me to go through that first time that was a bit harsh. But it was harsh for me because when I came here I was completely alone and I didn't know anybody. Then my friends started coming to Seattle as well. And for them, I think the experience was better because I was here, then more friends were here, and I already know how everything works. Because, funny story, I remember I was trying to make borscht when I moved here, and I couldn't because I couldn't find the product for it in the American supermarket. So when my friends moved here years later, I already was able to show them where to buy products for borscht. As for what motivated me to move, I guess before the move, I had a feeling that I'm kind of plateauing and I wanted to get more experiences. I wanted to see what else is there. I always was fascinated with United States and even English language and American culture. We worked a lot with our customers from United States back when I was working in Ukraine, and I saw that the standards of business the standards of communication is different. I was very curious to see it from inside. So when I moved to US, I was moving for a year. I thought I'll just get this experience and come back home knowing way more. And after a year, I realized I like living here quite a lot. I probably will stay.
You
But
probably will
there, of
stay.
course, a lot of benefits in living in Ukraine. And every time I go there, I miss it so much. I absolutely love it. I'm sure the same is for Russia, Belarus. It's just like different things are better here and other things are much better there. So yeah, I miss it dearly.
Okay, so we could say you just find your way, and you are currently happy, and all your expectations actually met. Yes.
Um, that's interesting question. I wouldn't say all expectations met, but I made my peace with it. So most important things I think I found here that I was looking for. Many things I made work here, and I was very lucky that some of my best friend moved here as well, and my parents now really like traveling, so I see them quite often all over the world, and sometimes I would go to a conference and they would just fly in to see me, which is absolutely amazing and much better than meeting just in our home apartment. So yeah, I think overall it worked very well for me, but I'd say I got very lucky as well. So, and I'm very thankful for that.
Look, you are trying to draw us a little bit idealistic picture. Any
I'm
any
probably
any any concerns? Any regrets?
um, about relocation.
Yes, yes.
Food is
It's not
better in
possible that
Ukraine.
you have no any regrets, have no any issues, have no any troubles. Just a fun job of your dream and things like that.
You know, my regret. So there are things that are objectively better in Ukraine, and there are regret that I have. And from things that are better, I miss. I really like food in Ukraine. It's absolutely delicious. The bread is awesome. I like certain aspects of Ukrainian culture. And when I say Ukraine, that's just my experiences with Ukraine, but I think it's very similar with Russian, Belarus, even Polish. Like it's all Eastern European countries. Here I have many friends and I have a same connection with people from all those Eastern European countries. It feels like it's my like family style. I miss that, of course, and that's because I was grown up there. I grew up there. If I grew up here, probably this culture would be more close to me. But as for my regret, they're slightly different. I don't regret that I moved here because food is bad. That was my conscious choice, right? I After some few months, I understood what I was buying in. My regret is that I could have done everything faster and more efficiently, and I didn't. So I regret wasting time. And now I'm trying to help those who like have similar life story, but in the beginning of their journey, I'm trying to help them get where I wanted to get faster. So probably like fix my own mistakes with giving
Thank
advice
you.
to others.
It quite honest answer. I appreciate. Thank you very
Of
much.
course.
So now all of us know that there are regrets, there are issues, there are a lot of problems, but in the same time you could be happy because you did what you wanted, and currently you have a lot of really positive, interesting things in your life. Thank you, Mikhail.
Yeah, you know, butterfly effect, where like if you change something in your past, you might have a completely different future. So I'm
Yes.
quite content with my current state of things. That's why I wouldn't be upset too much about changing something in the past. You know, they're always like
Okay.
best sci-fi stories. Like you change something for better, and then it's the end of the world.
Okay. Thank you. Quite honest. We appreciate
Of course.
Mikhail.
Yeah, let's proceed with being honest because it's really cool.
Yes.
And
Amazing.
also, it would be interesting to hear from you, Ola. When usually when somebody is moving to a different country, he takes or she takes some BSS with them. And one of such BSS is that people in other country work, let's say, less or vice versa, work more. For example, I don't know, for example, when somebody is moving to Germany, usually it's considered that German people are working like more precisely, more mechanically, or and it overall works more. However, it's a bias. It would be interesting to hear from you whether there were, in your case, a bias regarding how Americans are working, and whether this BS was, let's say, true or not in the end.
Yeah,
To
I know
comparing
what you're.
to what you saw in Ukraine, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen a few different countries, and my impression, I'm not stating anything, it just was my impression about like France and other countries that in Europe, not Germany, of course, that they really know how to enjoy their life, and they have those like amazing lunch breaks for a few hours. I'm sure not everybody. It's just the people I had a chance to interact. So I admire their ability to just pause things and go enjoy life, enjoy the food, enjoy the break, enjoy the weather around you. But of course, it feels like uh, workers in Ukraine, their workday is more intense, right? So those are biases, I guess, you were talking about. As for US, it is a very diverse country because it's a country of immigrants. It originally was like that, and now so many immigrants are coming here and they bring their own culture. So I can see in one company work life balance was extremely like on a very high level, and people will make pauses, make coffee breaks. During the day, they would go and get some 101s in a cafe, and they will get off the work early because like their child has a performance at school. They want to see that. So that was one, and the company was kind of promoting those values. When I was interviewing, they were saying that family is important, and like if you have any family issue, work can wait. we have unlimited vacation days. That was very interesting. So nobody counts how many vacation days you have. When you need a vacation, you just take it. Of course, if you'll be gone like for months and you're not doing your work, your manager will tell you like, oh, okay, your performance is suffering. But you don't keep account of how many days are left. When you need it, you just take it. You can confirm it with your manager and you go. So that is one type. I know other companies that are very high competitive and workers there work like extra more than 8 hours a day, more than 40 a week, and they're available in the evening. I think that nobody is forcing you, but some people, especially young people, they're extremely ambitious. They want to grow fast, so they voluntarily do it. And yeah, in like I talk to my friends, in some of their cases, I would just not be able to do it for a long time. I'd probably be dead after a month. At Microsoft, it is a very good balance. I absolutely love this company for that, because if you want challenge, you'll get challenge. If you want more products, you always can get it. It wasn't like my previous experience where I can do more, but there's no more work because we do just that much. And like, I felt that I'm not performing at my highest capacity. I'm not learning at my, that's going back to regretting about wasting time. you know that was the time of my life where I feel that I could have grown much faster and did much better, gain more skills faster. At Microsoft, if you want it, you can get. And again, I'm talking about my division. Microsoft is very different. I have experience only working in .NET team and dev div org, so that's what I can talk to. I have no idea how things are in different divisions, orgs at Microsoft. But here, nobody will force you and nobody will like, hurry up, you need to do it faster. But if you want to do more, there's always more work. You'll never feel like you're limited from the top. There's always opportunity to grow. And right now, Satya, he tries to provide, he is doing it very successfully, provides new values of like balance, inclusiveness. The culture, I would say, changed dramatically over the last years, from like 10 years ago and now. I feel, even though I wasn't here, but I talked to other people who used to work at Microsoft, and 10 years ago, that was way more competitive environment, and now it's more inclusive and collaboration instead of competition environment.
Okay, thanks for this detailed explanation. And if you don't mind, I will softly guide us into other kind of BSs we have. I mean, software testing engineers, let's say, knows that in Microsoft there are no software testing engineers. That's kind of BS I would like to talk about. Is it true?
The most provocative
Could you
question.
confirm?
Yes, I'm also interesting.
Yes, yes. This job position was removed before I joined Microsoft. So I don't know what exactly was the motivation. From what I've heard, they decided that developers should own the testing area as well. And developers should be the testers of their code, and then other teams testing other teams. So it goes like testing is done as a part of engineering process. And that is correct that we don't have a position software testing tester in Microsoft, but of course that we do testing, and that is the integration, unit tests, all like infrastructure of automation testing frameworks is done by developers. We also have contractor teams that help us to test manually, and we do like a lot of really from release to release tests, like new regression potential issues and so on. So those activities are still there and we still do it, but there's no job test engineer at Microsoft. And I've noticed that some companies followed that example, and some companies also in US removed that position, but there are others that still have testing and QA and as that.
Um,
From time to time,
can I
I received spam invitations to go for as that interview or tester interview, so that's how I know.
uh, I would try to go a little bit further. Can you give us your thoughts how a test engineer could switch from the, I would say, constructive mindset to destructive? It sometimes even could be very hard when you're writing the code and then you should try to invent several tests that will actually test your code. When you wrote your code, you always think it's good and it shouldn't contain the bugs. In the same time, you are trying to find the bugs in your own code. Is it really working approach? What do personally do you think?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the same when you write an article and you think like there are no mistakes, and then you give it somebody else to read and they find mistakes, but you don't see your own mistakes, right? Because you're so like
Yes.
used to it. It's already like in your mind. Yeah, in that case, peer review helps a lot. So you give your code and your task set to review for your coworkers, for other team members, and they don't know your feature, so they look at it as with a tester mindset. Like, I don't know what that is. I let me try to break it. And again, you're
Okay.
absolutely right. Just done by other people who were not working on the feature. They provide a peer review and then they suggest like you probably missed some test cases. You how about you cover this and so on.
Uh, can I ask you one more question? What
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
levels of testing actually use it to run testing in, for example, in your project? For example, unit testing, integration testing, system testing, system
Yeah,
integration, or UI testing.
all
All?
of those. And, mhm. And sometimes we also, when we want some exhaustive testing, we ask people to do it manually and to actually play with it and see, do some exhaustive manual testing.
Okay. Uh, who is
And
responsible
who
for writing the unit test?
developers.
Developers. So you write the code and then you write the
You
unit
write
test.
code and unit tests that cover it. And to be a good developer, you should commit your code with unit tests that are covering it. Of course, in real life, not always that happens. For example, if you start a brand new project and in test infrastructure is not in place, but you need to create a prototype to show like proof of concept, then tests might come later. But in established project where unit testing system is already there, you write the feature and unit test and you commit them together. And if you forgot unit test, you will get the review commands, cover it with tests.
Okay. Uh, just one more question about the testing. I had following opinion that if you are senior developer and you are really good in development, you are making much less mistakes than I would say the average developer. And probably the strategy of the Microsoft, and I think Netflix also trying to do it, to do similar things, is hire the best people. These people could be 10 times more expensive than average people, that in the same time they could be 100 times more productive, doing much less mistakes. But this is possible not only for giants. What do you think?
Uh, as you're absolutely right that Microsoft tries to hire very talented people, but it's not always those who have a lot of experience, and it's not always senior people. Microsoft tries to hire for talent, and we hire a lot of, so we get interns from universities, and we hire a lot of graduates right off school. What Microsoft tries to see is the potential of that person. And I know a lot of junior developers who just joined the team, and they're absolutely amazing. And I would like definitely prefer them rather than a very like established senior with 15 years of experience but no motivation and no drive. Right? In .NET team, I would say like engineers are absolutely amazing. We have very different levels from junior to principal and architects, and they all are very good because they're smart people, they're driven, motivated, they're learning, they're willing to like they have growth mindset. Again, I'm painting idealistic picture, but the people I had a chance to work with, they all like that.
Okay.
Maybe I was extremely lucky, or maybe just people who are not like that just don't like working in this team because they're also it takes effort. It takes right. You rather enjoy it or you find something that you enjoy instead. So yeah.
Yes, and I understand. A lot of people saying, I also could, I think this is true, that big companies are extremely aggressive in hiring the talents and ready to pay very, very high salaries.
Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately, it's true. The same doing, I think also Amazon, and Google also known to be very aggressive. Yes. What can you say about the salaries in Microsoft? Why I'm asking? I heard opinion. It's always opinions that, for example, general level of the salaries in the Google is not so high as we probably expect. And the reason is very simple. They are not paying very high salaries, but at the same time give to the employees a lot of things around dinners, rooms for the children, possibility to take the dog and cat with your uh, on your workplace, working from home from time to time. It's not probably relevant for today. Everybody working from home. What can you say about the salaries in the Microsoft? They are competitive, really high, or just very low?
Mhm. When you're saying they like Google, they don't give high salaries, but they have many other good things. The best thing among all those good things are stock options, which is money. So if we talk about base salary, yeah, base salary probably they're maybe slightly higher, but nobody looks at the base salary. They look at the whole compensation package because every year, besides salary, you get stock options and bonuses. And those stock options and bonuses, they significantly change your income. So when you're passing the interview, you don't fixate on like, what is my base salary cash? You think about bonuses and stocks as well, summarize it, and that is the money you're getting. Microsoft is so there is amazing site. It's called Glassdoor. You can go there and see salaries. There are so many postings. You can see salaries for Microsoft, different positions, different levels, Google, Amazon, and every company that probably exists, unless it's a very tiny startup. You'll find your answers there. In general, I'd say that giants pay higher than other companies, but there are also forks for each right group, and every person get their own deal. So it's hard for me to make any conclusions on behalf of Microsoft.
Okay, no problem. Just honest answer
Look it up.
to
It's very transparent there. Google it, you'll find answers.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Mikhail,
Glassdoor says it's 7,100. So 71,
Yeah,
sorry, 71,000.
that's
per
probably
month
very
or per
junior.
year?
Well, look at more options. There should be like tens of thousands of postings, if I guess. At least like hundreds and hundreds. And again, There is a base salary, but don't forget to add bonuses and stocks, which
Okay.
changes it significantly.
Great.
Overall, I'd say, of course, software industry in US is a very nice place to be, and we are very happy to make what we are making. In Ukraine, though, I noticed that software developers are the salary is so much higher than everybody else, all government employees and so on. It's just like a different level of living. At least that's what it was for me. Here in
Yes.
US, other people also make a lot of money, and if you're a junior developer, you probably will be making less than experienced tractor driving, especially if he works like extra overtime. In Ukraine, that would never be a case, right? Or in, I don't know, Russia, Belarus, Poland. So yeah, in the US, salaries are more like other people also making enough money to have a comfortable lifestyle. And that's another thing that I like about US, even though for me personally, it was better in Ukraine in terms of everything costs so little, like manicure, pedicure is extremely cheap. Here it's more expensive. But I like that here, like almost everybody in the country is taken care of, and you don't have to be in software to make decent money. You can choose whatever you want. And for my children, like they're not forced to be either in software, in some maybe like business tricky affairs, or you're making like bare minimum. Here you can be a doctor, you can be a teacher, you can be anybody and still make enough money.
Thank you. Quite
In
honest.
fact, if you're a
Yes.
doctor, you will make more even than in software. Really depends on the position, but yeah.
Great. Thank you. Uh, Mikhail or Victor
Or Victor.
or Victor.
Or Victor.
Okay. Let's start from the very sensitive questions today. Uh, a lot of people saying, and currently this topic of it's important that there are much more men in software development industry, but not so many women. My question is
Mm.
following: have you ever felt that you are not promoted or not rewarded because of you are just a woman? Have you ever felt that you are discriminated?
You're asking very good question, Victor. And yeah, you're right that there are way more male than female professionals. And I gave it a lot of thought because when I initially moved to US, and here culture is way more inclusive, it's more about helping women to get there, and we talk about like discrimination, gender discrimination, discrimination by any minority principles. It sounded a little bit weird for me because I personally never felt like I was discriminated. And in my experience in Ukraine and then in US, I thought that like why is it a problem? It never happened to me. I never experienced anything like that. I don't think that problem exists. Then I started talking to people more and reading more books, and I understood one thing, that my character is not what all women have. We all are different, right? And I think in certain ways, I have a lot of masculine behaviors in me and can be very pushy, strict, driven. I have a lot of energy. I'm not shy to go and ask or to go after people and make things happen. But no people, not all people are like that, and not all women are like that. And I'm not saying that that is the way to be, because the beauty of like our society is in diversity. Everybody is different, so everybody can bring their unique qualities to the table. And what other people have, I never will be able to contribute. And for other type of personalities, the current state of things can be discriminating. And I realized it, and I realized that we actually need to encourage other types of behaviors and make sure we don't silence them. We don't hear. We are hearing their voice as well, and we need to make sure that we're not trying to make them like me, because otherwise it will be a society of only like one way of doing things, which won't be as productive as a very diverse society. That those were my thoughts, and at the end I realized that yeah, that problem actually exists, and some companies are doing better, some companies are not doing so well at all, and in general we should move in that direction, and we should help women, we should get them more in tech, in science, and so on.
Okay, what is the situation in the Microsoft? Good
In
or bad
Microsoft,
or
it's very no, it's very good. Again, Satya does a lot. So we have proper trainings, we have proper mechanisms how we can help everybody, and we are actually like in our reviews, Connect. That's a system when they review your performance. We talk not only about things you did, but also about things that you helped others doing. And it goes beyond like females, right? It's in general, it's not just you go getter egoistic approach, it's about collaboration. So as your achievement, you talk about how you helped others and how you used the help of others. And that's something when I was very young, I thought that, oh, I should just talk about, not like back like 10 years ago probably, I thought that my achievements are only things that I did by myself. And to admit that I used somebody else's help, that is like talks to my disadvantage. That's like bad thing. I should not mention it at all because it looks like somebody did work for me. No, now I realize that that's also my benefit, like good thing about me, because instead of reinventing the wheel and doing extra work, wasting company time and money, I used what is already done and I optimized the process. And same way I helped others, which is also very good for them and for me.
okay. My next question will be about the culture in the Microsoft. We have already run several interviews, and for example, we have interview with Darko Mezarosh, he's developer advocate from the Amazon, and we ask a question about the, for example, most important company values. For example, let's try to point three most important things about the culture in the Microsoft.
Now, I think that diversity and inclusion is very important. Then probably customer I'm struggling with finding the right word. It's not a possession, but it's not just like focus. So we really try to listen to our customers and build the product that our customers need. And we want to avoid the situation where we come up with something that we think is good and then push it on our customers, because that, as like history shows, doesn't work so well. And right now, all the customers' interviews, follow-ups, all tickets, like if you have an issue, go on a GitHub, create issue. I guarantee we will look at it and look like in a somewhat in Visual Studio Feedback, we have a lots of feedback. So there's the entire team that triages it first, and then it gets assigned to different teams. But if it's open source product, for example, WinForms repo or WPF repo, if you file an issue, the team will get to it very fast. And we read all the feedbacks. Then we do lots of surveys. We reach out to customers and I'm saying customers, but .NET is free, so they're not actually buying it. It's our users. It's just my old habits die hard. So our users, I set up calls with them. I talk to them one-on-one. I ask them about their struggles. We all try to address the customer feedback and build something. In the very early stage of designing a feature, we are trying to incorporate the feedback from our customers. So that would be the second thing. And the third, I think, just like, yeah, growing the talent, because it's a very nice environment for grow if you want, and grow into whatever you want. It's very easy to pivot, and like if you realize you're passionate about A but you were working on B, it's very easy to transfer to another area. I know a few people who were PMs, and then they grew to principal level, and then they transferred to developers. I know developers that became PMs. So yeah, even if you spend like 10 years and then you realize, okay, now I'm interested in doing something different, Microsoft will let you start doing that different thing.
The third point, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Okay, Mikhail, do you have any questions to Olya, or we could move to the second part regarding the explanation how to pass but not fail interview to the United States Giants and receive a very, very high salary, bonuses, and everything, everything else.
And other options. Yes, very probably the short one and small one. As a continuation of previous motivational speech from Olya, in addition to all those values, let's say, no, let's concentrate on yourself. Again, as we are here doing this for software testing engineers, mostly, of course, not only, but mostly, it would be really interesting to hear from you how your experience as a test engineer helped you to get where you are right now. What, let's say, small pieces or big pieces taking you as a software tester helped you further?
There were
Can
a few
you
very
remember any?
helpful things that I've learned being a software tester. And first, of course, think like, is it at the highest quality possible or not? How can I break it? What other things I can test? What other things I can verify? Which helped me when I was a developer, and from now when I'm PM, I always think like, other potential issues. Can I do better? Can I verify that this is not broken here and there, which helps me to produce the higher quality work. And that always goes like a huge plus for your career and other promotions, other things. Another thing from being a tester, in my experience, I always had to understand a bigger picture than just a feature or just a team, right? Because you need to think about how that integrates, what is going to happen. Even if you tested everything here, maybe there is some scenario in future, and when it gets to production, what is going to happen? Maybe it will break there. Of course, that will be a fault of our quality assurance team. So I had to think about those things. And that skill of like zooming out and thinking about the bigger picture helped me a lot in my future career as well, because it's not required from you, but when you do it, you become much better professional, and people notice it. They tend to give you bigger tasks, that you will extend your scope, and that also helps to grow your career. I think those two things are the most important for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they are not expected, but yes, thanks a lot. I'm satisfied. So software testing engineers have a good, let's say, opportunities to get. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
let's move to the.
Amazing questions. Thank you so much, guys. I enjoyed your questions. Now I've heard that many people are curious how to prepare for job interviews. So I'll give a brief overview of my recommendations, and if you have any further questions, please send it, and I'm happy to give more details or follow up with me on Twitter later after this talk. I'm also happy to provide you more information at a later time. So I would recommend, and again, I don't know much about getting a job as a tester in US. I know a lot about getting a job as a developer or PM. I would guess it's similar, and I'm sure there are also PMs and developers who are watching us right now. So for developers, I would recommend to start with the book Cracking the Coding Interview. And I can drop a link. Victor, Mikhail, will people be able to see it if I drop it in the chat or not?
I think you could drop it to me in the Telegram, and tomorrow we will share this information with all attendees together with the link. Yes, we
Perfect.
will.
So
I promise.
sounds good. Cracking the Coding Interview for developers, and there is the same book, Cracking the PM Interview for PMs. I highly recommend reading this book, and especially as a starting point. This book also, those books have recommendations for other resources as well, and I would suggest to study everything that that book suggests you to study, because in world of American hiring process, these are all topics that they're asking. I don't know what it is right now in Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, but when I was 10 years ago, interviews were very, very different. And my first interviews in US were not passed because I was not expecting them to ask me about sorting some building a black red tree, some algorithm questions. I never expected that theory to be asked at my interview as C# developer. So start with the books, and there is a great resource that is called LeetCode. I will also share that site with I'm sharing it with Victor, but he will share it with you guys. And LeetCode
Yes.
has lots of information about interviews and has lots of problems. So I recommend you to start solving those problems, writing code. This all will be on your whiteboard interview coding questions. And how they like to do it, I don't know what it is like in a COVID everything online era, but before, you would come in the conference room and you'll go to the whiteboard, and they will ask you to write code and to write some algorithm to sort something, to find values, etc. These are not a trivial question, so it doesn't test your ability to write code. It tests your ability to solve algorithmic questions. And if you never heard about this task and you have to solve it on the spot, it is very hard. And most likely you will not do so well. So, what people do, they solve all those problems ahead of the time. And then when you're getting asked, you think, like, oh, I either already solved that problem, I know how to do it, or it's very similar to something that I solved. That is a special skill that you train. And I recommend you to get very good in this area. Also, LeetCode has competitions. I think every Saturday you can participate in competition. You can form your team, so it can be very exciting. It can be some kind of hobby. I know my friends were getting together in some coffee shop and solving those problems together. So that was a form of activity that helped them to get ready for interviews. For PMs, I would also recommend this book that is called Decode and Conquer, which helps you. That is extremely good for product managers. And that helps you to answer questions like design the system for me. And Usually, when you're getting asked questions like that, design a system, you should never start with designing the system. You should ask follow up questions and you should define the scope, priorities, criterias, who are our users, and so on and so forth. So I recommend reading the book. And yeah, I think we can cut this part short because I don't know what exactly you guys are interested in. How about now you post your questions and I'm happy to talk to any topics you are curious about.
Okay, let's start from the questions from chat. We have several questions from Shiva Krishna. Let's try to dedicate approximately up to 3 minutes for each question. So the first one, with your experience, what should be focused areas regarding software testing?
I'm not sure I understand the question well. Was my experience what areas of software testing should we
I
cover
I
in the
I think Shiva is asking about which areas are probably most interesting, most prospective areas for software testers or in scope of software testers. What actually testers should learn now to be successful in the future?
Okay, yeah,
This
that's
is
a
my
great question.
interpretation. Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, Shiva, please tell us if we interpreted it wrong so we can better answer your question. But I would recommend to learning the whole like theory and concept of testing so you understand what different types of testing are and when we should use what. That will make you a very high professional, not just the person who does A, but the person who can solve a big problems and be in charge of quality in like the team or for the whole project. And then if you are curious about which direction to take, I wouldn't say that one is better than other. It's more whichever you like more, whichever you're passionate about. If you like automation, yeah, go ahead down that path. If you like other types of testing, and probably Victor and Mikhail are better people to answer what is happening in Ukrainian, Russian, Belarus market right now. What kind of testers are needed in US and Microsoft, you will need to be able to write code to be like test automation to be able to get a job. So for Microsoft, it's that. But yeah, Victor, if you want to add, what is important? What kinds of tests are important for our audience right now, from your
Look, it's
perspective?
your interview, not mine. I think you completely answering the question. You are working in the company and you are talking about your current experience, so it's quite clear. Next question. What you suggest? Can you suggest good books to go through regarding to software testing? I think you could probably advise some kind of book that explains and showing up how actually testing is done in the Microsoft.
I don't have books right now, but I'll look at them and I'll share it with Victor and he'll share it with you guys because I prepare like I opened my folder for books that I was reading for interviews, but in the last 10 years it was development and PM. If you're
Okay.
interested about those books, I can share.
Yes. Thank you. I will wait for the information from you and we will distribute between all community
Sounds good.
members. Yes. Is it possible to relocate to United States as a manual tester?
I
Do you
think
know?
so. I
Proceed,
think you
please.
can it as a tester. I would recommend you to look for consulting companies that are doing relocation and placement. So, not reach out to Microsoft, Google, or Amazon directly, but look for companies that do relocation. And with them, you can discuss what exactly they are looking for. I'm sure there are plenty of jobs as testers. And yeah, learn English. That's my advice. That will help you a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Also,
How?
just to add,
Yes.
sorry, some companies they transfer their employees in United States with the L1 visa. So that is not like they place you at other companies, but they let you work inside this company, but they're American department, and that's another option. And I know, I guess like EPAM, Global Logic, they, I think, were doing that. Probably many
Yes.
others as well. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. Uh, how hard to find a job in United States in IT? How the process differs from Ukraine?
So it's not hard. It depends on the job as well. The easiest is to find a job for software developers. There's so many jobs. It's harder for PM, and for testers, I think that really depends. Are you automation tester? Are you manual tester? Where are you looking? And the process is very different because in Ukraine or Russia, again, when I say Ukraine, that's the country I can speak for
Eastern
sure
Europe,
because,
let's say.
yeah, I had experience there, but probably you can extend it to all Eastern
Yes,
Europe.
yes, it's quite
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. So I remember there you could get a job offer in a few days, and they're like, "Okay, you're hired. Okay, when you can start?" In US, it takes months. So once you get your job offer, there is a background screening process. And for big companies, they outsource that process to special companies who do back screen, and they test you for if you ever was convicted of a crime. Did you actually graduate what you say you graduated? Did you had experience at companies that you say? So my advice, first, never lie on your resume, because they're calling to all those companies and they're checking that. And they were calling to my, when I got a job at Microsoft, my background screen took about a month because they couldn't call to my university to verify my diploma. And I assumed they were calling at Ukrainian night, so nobody was picking up. And I actually was terrified that when they start speaking English to my university, will there be anyone who will be able to understand them and just not hang up on them? But finally, my background cleared, so I guess somebody talked to them in English. Once you, oh, another thing. First, usually you have your HR screens your resume. First, in big companies, computer screens your resume. Then HR screens your resume. Then hiring manager can set up a call with you for from 5 to 30 minutes where they just briefly, or that can be done by HR as well, where they just briefly confirm who you are. And I remember I got a call because my resume had a program manager, and we started talking, and they described program manager job, and I'm like, that's not what I do. It's so not me. They're like, okay, never mind. Uh, then when they define that, okay, you're the right person for the job, you will get a phone screen where you will get asked questions about your profession, but it's not too extensive. And if you pass that, you might get a task to do at home and send them results. If you pass all that, then you get invite for the day-long interview. In big companies, you will have from 4 to 6 1 hour interviews. And my day was absolutely exhausting, very interesting, but very hard. Like after that, I just like fall on the couch and couldn't do anything for the rest of the day. And then if that goes well, then you're meeting with the hiring manager again. So that's also an interview, but you kind of already like they decided to hire you. It's more like making sure you're on the same page. Some companies have a bar raiser interview. That's the person, besides all those people, that's a person who makes sure that they're hiring really talented people. And that interview, I've heard, can be very challenging, and that bar raiser can decline you even if all other people said yes. But again, from company to company, it differs. But in general, in US, for a full-time job, prepare for a very long process of interviews and then waiting for the answer and waiting for background check and so on. Yeah. On
Okay,
average, I
this
would say
efforts.
it's a few months. Hmm.
Let's hope this efforts will work.
But what I'm saying, all that I just said is applicable to full-time jobs. They're also contracting jobs. Contractors, they have a different, they don't get, they get paid for per hours. I'm not sure if they don't have the same compensation package as full-time employees. I don't know what exactly their deal is, but also contractor, that's like considered as a temporary worker. The work can be terminated or you can leave. And full-time, that is the people that a company is going to invest in. That's the people who assume to stay with the company for a long time. And for contractors, the process is easier. Sometimes it's easier to get a contracting job. And then when team loves you, the team will get you to get to the full time. You still will need to do interviews, but because everybody knows you already and they know that they want you, that process is easier.
Okay, next question. How did you switch to the PM? Have you passed some trainings? What was needed to learn?
Yeah, that's a very good question too. I did not have any trainings. I had to learn everything at my job, and that was not easy. It was a lot of learning. So, how I switched before Microsoft, I was working at a startup, and there we had a PM. He left the company. They never hired anybody else. Back then, I thought that I probably have interest in this area. So I talked to my management and I said, like, I'd be interested in doing PM tasks. So they said, how about you will get some PM tasks, but also keep being your developer. So you'll be first like 20% PM, then 50-50, 50% PM, 50% dev. But back then, I didn't know that the job that was called PM there, that is what dev leads are doing at Microsoft. It's very close to engineering process. It had nothing to do with developing the product. It was mostly talking to top management about which features we need to enable on a high level, then decomposing those features into small developers tasks and maintaining the board, scrum meetings, assigning those tasks, assigning story points, all that. This is all is done by dev leads in Microsoft. So product managers do different things. When I interviewed to Microsoft, I had that experience as a PM, and I also was very, very passionate about .NET and very driven. I guess they gave me a chance because we talked a lot about .NET and Java and what I think should be next steps for .NET and what I think about .NET Core and other things. And they could see that I really wanted that job, that I've been the user of their products for 10 years. I have experience as a user, so I can better relate as a user. And then I needed to learn everything that is required for product manager, which was not easy. So what I right now, I was just looking recently, and there are lots of courses on Coursera, Udemy, edX for product management or project management. Depends on what you want to do. I recommend taking those courses. Also, there are some books that you can read, and then if you hear something like KPI, OKRs, user studies, and you want to learn more, just Google and find resources and learn about that. When if you get a job as a senior, as a junior PM, it's easy to learn at okay, easy, probably not good. It's possible to learn at job, but you really need to try very hard and reach out for mentors, for feedback, resources. So another path that I took is just surround yourself with PMs, see what they're doing, schedule one-on-ones, ask them lots and lots of questions, ask some people to be your mentors, and come to mentoring meetings prepared about like, I need to learn about this topic, recommend me resources, tell me how to do this, tell me what I do in this situation, what are these areas, give me keywords that I can Google and learn more offline, and so on. That's another path that you can take.
Okay. The next question: do you have penalties in Microsoft for bugs missed, or if any fuck ups happened?
No, no, we don't have penalties. We do retrospective meetings where we discuss why certain things happen, but we don't have that punishment culture. I mean, people already feel pretty bad if they realize it's their mistake, and management usually handles it very well. For me, for example, like if I know that anybody who I work with made a mistake, I would never tell them like, why did you do it? How dare you? Like, I would never do something like that. I would ask like, okay, let's think together how that could be avoided. Like, do you think in future how can we make sure that situation didn't happen? What we could have done better? And as if you are a lead, my personal experience as being report and lead, it always sounds better if you talk we as a team rather than pointing fingers and blaming individual. That also might be a difference between United States culture and Eastern European. United States, they're very polite, I would say. They will never tell you directly, like, how could you do it? It's totally your fault. You're dumb. That never would happen. But from the way how people talk, you can understand that they kind of blame you and you should do better next time.
Okay. Next question about value of certification in United States. Uh, it's ISTQB, International Software Testing Qualification Board certification. So the question is following. Do certification somehow taken into account in United States, for example, ISTQB certification?
So if you have it, definitely put on your resume. But I would suggest you to get it if you're learning something with it, not just to have it on your resume, because they would not be the key decision makers. What is important in US is your diploma. And do you have bachelor or master, or if you have PhD, that all is very important. They really look into your diploma and in which area that diploma was gained. And then third thing, from which university. But university, yeah, it probably be Eastern European university. But if you have like master degree from Harvard, Princeton, Yale, that means a lot here. Next step, if you just have a master's degree in computer science, that means a lot. That is much better than bachelor, much better than not having any degree. In Ukraine, when I was studying, or later when I was looking for a job, I thought those diplomas don't matter at all. And when I moved to US, I realized that it's a completely different story. Diplomas here really matter, and to certain job you won't get access, like your resume will never be picked up if you specify that you don't have a higher education.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, is it hard in Microsoft to get promoted?
No, it's not hard. We have a good system where they explain you very well how promotion system works. And you usually work with your direct manager and you tell them that you want to grow your career and your manager should help you to set up goals and so on and so forth. So, of course, that depends on what kind of project you do, what kind of person you are, who is your manager, how well your communication with your manager established, and so on. But in general, they do meetings where they explain to like whole division how our promotion works. How do we promote people? What are those levels? What is the process? What are people discussions and so on? And I think that's great because at other companies I did not have it. They never explained you. So what do we do when we promote people? Here they tell us like we collect the feedback, we go, we have those meetings, this is the schedule, that's what we discuss, that's how we rank, and so on. So I think it's very transparent. I really like that. And I was very happy to have some managers who really taught me how to build and promote your career that I can do now. And if your direct manager cannot help you with that, you can always reach out for to anybody else, set up one-on-one with them and ask them questions. And you can say like, oh, how do I grow? How do I get to the next level? The more you ask, the more question answers you get, and then you have an understanding what to do.
Okay, thank you. We have no other questions in the chat, so probably we are moving to the end. I would say it was pretty interesting interview. Thank you for the honest answers without the shadows. Just clear points. Even these points are not so so. I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for share your expertise, your ideas, your thoughts with the community. I hope Microsoft will not fire you because of this interview, and we will still be able to talk to talk with you again. So I hope you also enjoyed. Mikhail, thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Thank
I
you.
have one more question from audience. It was not written to the chat to Victor. However, we had it in our Telegram group, and the question was pretty straightforward: where to send CV to get the job in Microsoft.
At Microsoft, there is a careers.microsoft.
I think they received thousand or hundred email.
Careers.microsoft.com. I will also send the link here. Um, you can find there are lots of job openings, and you can create your account, upload your resume, and apply for many jobs at once. Another option is through LinkedIn. Try to find HRs for Microsoft and get reach. So it's always helped to have your LinkedIn updated, and if you set looking for jobs, HR will start to find you. You probably need to specify the area as US for US recruiters to be able to see you in their search results. But yeah, that helps.
Okay,
Let's
thanks a lot
hope for the
for this
best.
answer. Yes.
Good
All
luck.
right,
I
thank
think it's
you guys. That was amazing talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for everybody who were watching us, thank you for your time and attention. You can always follow up with me on Twitter at Olya Gavrish. And if you have any questions of any sort, please reach out. I'm happy to answer. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night and the rest of the day for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olya.
Till the next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.